I get this question constantly. What peptides would you recommend for muscle growth? Which ones work? Should I get on peptides? And I understand why men ask, because the word peptides is everywhere. It sounds like the answer, to be honest, on Instagram and social media. And it sounds like the thing that everybody else already knows that you feel like is missing. So today I'm going to give you a full picture, what peptide works, how they work, what each class does, and what none of them do yet. And the question that everyone probably wants to answer by clicking on this video: do they build muscle? Before we start, I'm a Taza. If you're new here, I've coached over 700 men, over 30 through serious body transformations, and I am not here to sell you a stack. I just want to give you the truth. I've got nothing to sell you here in terms of peptides and so on, but I just want to make sure you make a smart decision with your health and fitness. So let's start from the beginning, okay? Now, what peptides actually are is, peptides are actually just amino acid chains. Typically fewer than 50 amino acids in length. Anything significantly above that is what we describe as a complete protein. Their primary function in the body is as signaling molecules. They bind into receptors and they tell specific cells to do specific things: grow more muscle, speed up metabolism, release more of a particular hormone, that kind of signaling. And many of your hormones your body already produces naturally are peptides. Insulin is a peptide, GLP-1 is a peptide, you might have heard of commonly. But this matters because it means synthetic versions slot into your physiology with a level of compatibility that a lot of other compounds don't have. Like, they're literally engineered synthetic versions that people are using to modify versions that they already have got of natural molecules that already exist, but made to be more stable, have longer half-lives, or to bind with receptors with greater intensity. But one thing knowing before you get excited, by the way, your peptides, most peptides can't be swallowed. Like, your digestive system's primary job is to break down amino acids. So if you drink peptides, you're just getting sold an expensive soup, to be honest, and all of them generally require an injection, okay? Under the skin. Most of them are mixed with water, by the way. Most require refrigeration between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius and have a degradation window measured in weeks. And traveling with them is genuinely a logistical exercise. This is not take a pill and cool things happen situation sort of thing. So there's a lot more to it, and it's not just pop a pill and your problems are solved. So let's dive into the 5 classes of peptides. People talk about peptides as if it's just one thing. They're not. There's 5 generally meaningful different classes, and they do all very different things. So getting clear on this changes the entire conversation. Class 1, you've got the weight loss peptides: semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide. You may have heard of Ozempic, Mounjaro. We're looking at all these things. These are GLP-1 receptor agonists, and they're multi-receptor variants, okay? So they're extraordinary for fat loss and metabolic health. They are not anabolic. They do not build muscle, which I wish they did, because I'd probably be on them, but they don't. And that's very important to know. Then we've got class 2, the recovery peptide. BPC, TB500. People generally use these to speed up injury healing, and the community enthusiasm around them is quite high. The actual human safety and effectiveness data is kind of thin. So there are also mechanistic reasons, by the way, worth taking seriously to suspect that a large high-dose use could present risk related to, let's say, cancer progressions, not causing cancer obviously, but potentially supporting the growth of cancer that's already developing, which isn't something to ignore, of course, but if you are going to be using these, then take them for a specific injury, for a specific period, small time period, and then stop. Right, just something to look at. Then class 3, you've got the exercise biometrics. What's these a main example? The idea is that these replicate part of the chemical cascade that your body produces in response to exercise, without you having to exercise, basically. They may support you with your energy, aerobic health, but the research is still basically absent, by the way. Like the safety data is quite minimal and not supported. And there's a mechanistic concern, I would say, that these compounds appear to be suppressed in motor pathways to some degree, which is the same pathway responsible for muscle protein synthesis, which is not that direction you want to be going if building muscle, preserving muscle is a goal. So just something to look at, but now you know. Then we've got class 4, the growth hormone, secret dogs: sermorelin, CGC1295, ipamorelin, and generally similar compounds. But these signal your pituitary gland to release a lot more of your own growth hormone. They're usually what we call permissive anabolics. They support an environment where muscle growth and fat loss can happen, slightly more efficient. They do not cause muscle directly, however, and they're not primary anabolics. Like, you will not inject these and get significantly more muscular or take them orally. But what you may notice over time is slightly better body composition, improved sleep, better joint health, marginally faster fat loss, which are real but small effects. And if you cannot access or afford actual growth hormone therapy, and you may want something in this category, then they're a reasonable, cost-effective choice. Then we've got class 5, which is the IGF-1 modulators. These generally act primarily to insulin-like growth factor in the body. In animal studies, generally done with localized injections. The muscle growth effects are dramatic, to be honest. In human use, the results were underwhelming, so there's a complete different expectation here. Primarily, generally, these are used because these compounds hit everything systematically. Not just muscle tissue, they have a shorter half-life, they require multiple injections per day, and the side effects profile is quite significant. So unless you are already using a sophisticated stack of growth hormone anabolics, these likely do not make any sense for you on any reasonable cost-benefit analysis. But then the question that everyone probably came for, do peptides build muscle? No, not currently. There's no peptide in existence right now that is actually causing muscle growth. Like, there's just not one out. And here's the most honest test for that. If a genuinely powerful muscle building peptide existed, every serious bodybuilder in the world would probably know about it and be using it right now. Like, these are people whose career literally depends on finding everything available in their sport to get the upper edge in that sport. So like, the fact they don't have it and they don't speak about it, the silence on this is your answer. The community enthusiasm around peptides for muscle growth is real, but the results from peptides for muscle growth is not. Because if there was one, then you'd probably hear a lot more about it, hence you haven't done so far, okay? But then if they don't do that, what are they actually good for? I mean, the weight loss peptides, semaglutide, tirzepatide, retatrutide, they're genuinely exceptional. And I also want to say here, powerful isn't always better, it depends on what problem you're trying to solve. But the safety data is quite extensive. The results for fat loss and metabolic health are well documented for men, seeking serious change for women as well. These are probably the most powerful tools out there. Get them through a legitimate channel, otherwise you're just paying for something that as a placebo. But you should never use them for a replacement for training and nutrition, but use them to accelerate on a real strategy on top. So think of it as it makes healthy people healthier. That's probably the best way to look at peptides. The recovery peptides, they have enough community support to be considered quite good for injuries, but with clear boundaries, specific injuries, specific durations, and then stop. Like, because of the things we spoke about earlier. The rest, however, pretty underwhelming, if I'm being honest with you. Like, there's meaningful safety questions, underwhelming evidence, not where I'd point anybody who wants real results. But then if we dive into what people actually need, the honest answer to most of what people are trying to solve peptides and find peptide stacks for is testosterone optimization, proper nutrition structure around your life, consistent resistance training, high protein intake. That solves most of the problems. If your testosterone is suboptimal, which statistically is for a large amount of men nowadays, fixing that will do way more than your body composition than any peptide stack. A proper train program will do more. Getting about 160, 200 grams of protein will do more. Like, this is where you get the best results. They just do what you're doing, but accelerate it with all the peptides we spoke about, right? Like, the guys that do win in fitness to get the best results, best bodies that you probably already know of, extremely consistent with the fundamentals, right? They're responding to the basics, they're getting it done, they're probably doing it for way longer than you think, and they're getting results because they're heading in the direction they need to without questioning peptides or trying to look for a replacement or quick fix. But where peptides are heading, it's worth saying that this space is moving fast. It's taken conversations all over social media. It's wild. Like, oral small molecules, drugs, like compounds that can be swallowed with high target specificity and limited side effects are likely to change this conversation entirely down the line. Like, when there's things that actually you take a pill and they solve a big problem, then potentially will be quite insane to look out for. AI-assisted drugs development companies, obviously they have compressed timelines where they can do this in ways that wasn't previously possible due to research and everything with AI going nowadays. The meaningful drugs for fat loss, energy, health, and eventually muscle growth are going to come. They're coming, but they're not here. And in the meantime, the men who build the best bodies are the ones who work with what is proven, not with what is promised or something to come. I'll tell you that as well. So if you have any questions, drop a comment below. That's all of what I'm here for. I wanted to give my real thoughts and give you a little bit of a breakdown and kind of like a full comprehensive review on peptides. My stance on it, I'm very neutral. If you take it, great, just be well informed. But I hope you find it useful and it will give you the answers you're looking for.